let's talk about this new reporting from the New York Times this morning about Paul Manafort and his dealings in the Ukraine with Viktor Yanukovych. He was a consultant for Viktor Yanukovych. And apparently, the New York Times and investigators have gone back and found these handwritten ledgers that are off-the-book payments that they claim amounted to something like $12.7 million for Paul Manafort, who, of course, is the chairman of the Trump campaign, from his dealings there with Yanukovych. Paul Manafort has responded to this, and he says, once again, the New York Times has chosen to purposefully ignore facts and professional journalism to fit their political agenda, choosing to attack my character and reputation rather than present an honest report. I have never received a single off-the-books cash payment, as falsely reported by the New York Times, nor have I ever done work for the governments of Ukraine or Russia. Where are we with this story now?
I mean, well, it's hard to think that Manafort's terribly worried about his reputation, given who he's worked for in the past. I mean, it's a litany of dictators and terrible human beings. So it's not really. That's not. I'm surprised he's so concerned about that. That said, you know what this does? This muddies the water. They've made a lot of accusations against the Clintons and the Clinton Foundation and some of the people they've dealt with. And I think at its core, this goes to that argument. And look at your campaign chair. Look who he's dealt with. Look what he's done. And I think it really does undermine that attack by the Trump campaign.
Earl?
Yeah, also you've got to, I want to go back and parse that statement from Paul Manafort. I just heard it for the first time. But I mean, if I understand the article correctly, I don't think it was the governments that were funneling him the money. I think the accusation was that the parties that supported those who were in charge of those governments were funneling the money. We also know, and this I think is probably provable, that he was involved in some cash flows, some cash transactions to try and set up businesses using some of the assets or buying and then exploiting some of the assets of the same region. He's got a lot of explaining to do. I mean,
why do voters care about this? What he did in the past?
What's the purpose? You could be right in that they don't. Right?
No,
he's not running for office. The concern is that Trump decided to bring a guy in who's represented bad people in the past. He has a loose nickname of being the master of the dark arts when it comes to politics.
It's a little cute nickname.
And
head of the terror lobby.
You tried to move. Were you trying to move money for Russian oligarchs? Were you working for this guy Yanukovych, who was dismissed as a despot by many people?
But we knew this. It's really that just if there's these off-the-ledger payments, right?
Right.
Right. But look, he's going to have cover to come out with a statement like this because they don't have him cold. They have a handwritten ledger. They don't have any proof of transfers into his accounts. They don't have any proof of Manafort taking control of this money, and he's seizing the initiative on that. That's one of the burdens of investigative reporting, right?
But the next time he comes on and talks to you or any other journalist about, crooked Hillary and all of these different problems with the Clinton Foundation, the next logical question will be like, well, Mr. Manafort, let's talk about what you were involved in. And, let's talk about some transparency when it comes to you. And it raises the ultimate question that the Trump campaign has really not spent time on, which is how would they be different? If they're saying, crooked Hillary, she's no good, we can't put her in charge of this or that or the other, okay, fine. What are your plans? What are the structures? What are you going to do to make sure that no corruption of the kind that you are decrying ever gets anywhere near the White House? Paul Manafort is not the one, at least this week, to sell that message.
Well, one thing's for sure. Manafort does not get rattled about this. In his first interview when he came back onto the scene for Trump, he did it with us. And I went right after this, very early on in the interview. He is not moved. He is not impressed by the reporting on this. He says he owns what he did in the past. He's a political consultant.